There is no reason to teach any certain subjects to certain ages. There's so many new people out there homeschooling for many different reasons. And this is one thing I've noticed lots of people asking about on Facebook. They're asking, what should I teach my third grader? What should I teach my seventh grader? And what I want to say to all of you is it doesn't matter what you teach at certain ages. All that matters is that they know what they need to know at the end of their, home education with you before they leave off and go into the world. So lots of people like to compare learning to a spider web, that lots of things are connected, which is totally true. So if you're to think of somebody, in any grade, and they would say maybe learn about, say Vikings, and then with Vikings, they learn about their culture and the geography. They learn about the boats that they used to use. They would learn maybe about the food they'd eat. Okay, so that is like the spider web. So you've got your spider web spreading out, and then you have all the connections in between. So what I don't like about the spider web analogy is that life doesn't run on a single plane like a spider web. The life is interconnecting and in an infinite number of ways. So I compare learning to what I call the candy floss, which is the same thing as cotton candy. I like using the term candy floss because floss is just, if you keep pulling it out of a spool, it's one long continuous string, right? So candy floss, you go to the fair and you get your candy floss, and it's so many, an infinite number of little strings of sugar that are all crisscrossing and touching, but they all don't interconnect in 1, 2, 3, or 4 spots. They are crisscrossing and winding around each other in a numerous number of ways that you cannot even imagine. So if you picture, if you're worried, you're like, well, what if my child doesn't learn about the gold rush in 5th grade? Or what if my child doesn't learn to read by the time they're 5? What you got to remember is our brain has all these synapses that are all connected, and they are constantly firing and learning. And what happens is they don't only get used one time, the brain constantly goes back and revisits those things. So just like the candy floss, if you teach your son, say, I have children my boys love history, and so they've learned about history topics that are usually touched on in high school since they were 8 or younger. I mean, they know a lot about especially war history. So even though they might have learned about that now, that doesn't mean that's the last time it's ever going to be touched on. Say they go off to college, or say even 4 years from now, we go visit a historical site someplace, and maybe we visit a presidential museum, because we love to go to those, and they bring up maybe a war that happened during the time of that president. Your child's brain is going to go retrieve that information, retrieve what they remember from that, and it's going to make new connections, okay? So it doesn't matter what age at all. All that matters is that they learn things. So I encourage you, rather than worrying about that they're keeping up with their specific curriculum that you may have purchased, rather than worrying that, that Sally, Joe, and Bob over there are all learning about dinosaurs this year, but your child wants to learn about Australia, follow that. Lead with that, because they will remember it. They will enjoy learning about it because it is something they're interested in. Okay, how many times do you go, or you have a meeting, or someone's talking about something and you're just not interested in it? You tune it out and you dump that information as soon as you can, because it's not something that's of interest to you. So it's the same with the children. They don't, if they're not super interested, they might retain some things, but they're not going to retain anywhere near as much as if you were to dive into a topic that they're interested in. So take notice of your children. Take notice of the things that they are asking questions about. and make sure you take that opportunity to find something for them to learn about. Because if you do, it will lead all sorts of ways. That's why I named my company Little Rabbit Trails, because that's what we're all about. We're all about following different passions, and then finding those other things that you're worried, like, oh, what if my child isn't interested in math? Well, guess what? Math is connected to everything. History is connected to everything. Geography, geology. You'll touch on all of it no matter what subject. Even if your child is obsessed with horses, even if your child is obsessed with stars, you will come across all the subjects within a single topic. It's impossible to avoid it. So make sure you start paying attention, follow things that they're interested in, and even if you're sticking to a curriculum, pay attention to the questions your kids have, because it might lead to an awesome rabbit trail that they will never forget.